as a government employee, then I was requested by President Jacob Zuma to assume the role of being Secretary General of Umkhonto we Sizwe.
Was it an easy decision for you to make? Or were you given an opportunity even to think about it?
It's not my decision. It's actually the decision of the collective that I must play the role of Secretary General in terms of how it got to be structured. But it's not a difficult transition because national organizing is under the Secretary General's office. And in terms of the responsibilities and the tasks that were mandated as national organizer, more or less there was a lot of work which were co-performing with the Secretary General. So the transition has been seamless and will be seamless in terms of what got to happen because in the constitution of Umkhonto we Sizwe, we've got a structure called the Secretariat.
In a challenging and competitive world where success is hard-earned, we put in the hard work to provide you education that's world-class, that backs you beyond graduation, guiding your studies wherever you are, because we know what it took to get you here. Together, we unlock your potential. Together, we defy the odds. Boston, serious about education, serious about you.
Which is convened by a Secretary General and coordinated by a national organizer. And that structure sits weekly to then deal with all organizational issues.
So that means
that
means you're going to be on the ground mostly. I mean, I saw your statement welcoming this role. That means being out of the office and really rolling up your sleeves.
Yeah, so
are you up to the task?
That is what we consistently get to do and interact with structures of Umkhonto we Sizwe. Since I became a member of Umkhonto we Sizwe, I've got to interact with all provinces of Umkhonto we Sizwe, except Eastern Cape, which we're still going to interact with. But otherwise, we've got to interact with all structures in all the provinces. We've got to interact with structures of the Youth League of Umkhonto we Sizwe, the Women's League, the Student Movement. So basically, we've got to cover the entire ground and
what are you going to prioritize? I mean, the Umkhonto we Sizwe party is fairly new in the political life of democratic South Africa. What are you going to prioritize as the SG?
So look, part of the work which we are busy with now is the establishment of all structures of Umkhonto we Sizwe. Like, we have to set up structures at provincial level. The structures we call provincial detachments, and then we have to put regional structures as well, sub-regional structures, ward-based structures, and voting district-based structures. So we have to launch branches of Umkhonto we Sizwe in all the 23,291 voting districts in South Africa. So that becomes the primary task because Umkhonto we Sizwe, of course, is the third biggest political party in South Africa, but its electoral dominance got to come from KwaZulu-Natal, Mpumalanga, and Gauteng.
In a challenging and competitive world where success is hard-earned, we put in the hard work to provide you education that's world-class, that backs you beyond graduation, guiding your studies wherever you are, because we know what it took to get you here. Together, we unlock your potential. Together, we defy the odds. Boston, serious about education, serious about you.
So the obligation that we have now is to spread the organization evenly in all corners of South Africa so that it has got...
You don't have much time, for example, ahead of the local government elections in 2026.
So by the time we get to 2026, we'll be existing in all corners of South Africa. But the other priority which I wanted to highlight on is to substantiate the policy positions that Umkhonto we Sizwe upholds. So in the Constitution, there are policy statements. In the People's Mandate, which is the manifesto of Umkhonto we Sizwe, there are policy articulations and policy intentions. But in terms of the substantial policy positions, we still have to consolidate on that. And the good thing that defines Umkhonto we Sizwe is that we've got the most brilliant of leaders and activists who have got proper familiarity with different sectors of society. So when it comes to substantiation of policy issues, it will be a smooth process that is going to illustrate to the people of South Africa that there can be an alternate agenda that can bring about a sustainable livelihoods for everyone.
Yeah, and the road to 2029 for you at this early stage, what does it look like? Where would Umkhonto we Sizwe be heading to?
So as part of the work of Umkhonto we Sizwe, what we will be doing as well will be a genuine attempt to unify all the progressive forces. If there's a possibility of constituting one electoral bloc, we'll do so. But if there's no possibility of such, we will unite all the progressive activists and members and individuals under the banner of Umkhonto we Sizwe.
Why is that such a big project, important project for Umkhonto we Sizwe?
It's very important because the stratification of particularly black progressive parties in South Africa has got to undermine otherwise a collective agenda which they have to push.
It all began with a cry. We listened, and we cared enough to answer. Little did we know then that it would become our culture to serve the people of our land. That's why after all this time, we're still here for you, and you, and you. At your service, as Bob, here for you since 1918.
So then the stratification actually is the foundation of how colonialism and neocolonialism got to thrive. So to break that, we as black people, as the oppressed people, we have to unite, and then we then push an agenda that redresses the imbalances of the past, that gets to decisively deal with the vestiges of apartheid and colonialism.
Does that form part of the growth plans for MK Party?
Yes.
That if you do that, you're going to become bigger?
Yes. Look, one thing that is guaranteed about Umkhonto we Sizwe is that we're going to grow. We're going to expand like far much more firmly, both qualitatively and quantitatively, in terms of the numbers, in terms of how we present ourselves to society. The organization is guaranteed of upward movement. That one is guaranteed. The issue will be the pace in terms of how we then deal with it and how all the structures get to the party in terms of making sure that we build a stable organization that is not defined by factionalism and internal strife.
Okay. I mean, we know the political past you've had and the relationship with the current leader who's appointed you the Secretary General of Umkhonto we Sizwe.
Yes.
How would you describe your relationship today with Jacob Zuma?
I think President Zuma is the most brilliant political leader and the most consistent political leader that South Africa has ever got to produce. He has never sacrificed principle on the altar of political convenience. He knows where the battle line is drawn. He knows on which side he is fighting from. He doesn't sometimes cross to fight from this side and then come and fight from this other side. He has never been associated with the white capitalist establishment. He has never been associated with the Western imperialist agenda. He has always fought on the side of the oppressed masses of the people here in South Africa, in the continent and the world. And that gives comfort because, because that is what a political leadership should be.
It all began with a cry. We listened, and we cared enough to answer. Little did we know then that it would become our culture to serve the people of our land. That's why after all this time, we're still here for you, and you, and you. At your service, as Bob, here for you since 1918.
Not that today you're this side, tomorrow you're this side. And
so your relationship currently
the relationship
is
quite solid. I actually get to learn a lot from him in terms of a proper contextualization of the political developments, and generally on how we conduct ourselves as activists. So even that, like the part of the issues which we actually get to learn, and just to emphasize this, is that he says that even upon extreme provocation, we should never degenerate to want to be insulting people and saying all sorts of bad things about other people. That give yourself time to listen to people much more attentively. Whether they say wrong things about you and everything else, but you must always pay attention to what the people say. So that is what we learn from President.
Okay, finally, Floyd, before you go, so when you look back, you think with where you are now and the role you're going to be playing, Umkhonto we Sizwe, and the relationship you have, as you've described, with the former President Jacob Gedleyihlekisa Zuma, you think you made the right decision to leave the EFF at this time?
The decision to join Umkhonto we Sizwe was the best decision ever. It was the most correct decision, and it's the most correct decision that I've ever taken in my life. And even the decision to leave the EFF was the most correct decision to do so in this particular moment. And it's one decision that history will illustrate that was the best decision in terms of what will happen.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. That's Floyd Shivambu, the new Secretary General of Umkhonto we Sizwe Party.
In a challenging and competitive world,